Welcome. Today with me, I have Danielle Supkis Cheek. She is a member of TXCPA Houston. Danielle is a director at PKF and also is on faculty at Rice University and is part of the AICPA's technical committee. Is the chair of the committee. So welcome, Danielle, to the podcast. Really appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I thought with that introduction, we'd do some icebreakers if you're up for it, and just kind of set the table here. So first question for you, what's one thing that you think someone would be surprised to learn about you?
I go with in like just general meeting people. Most people are usually surprised that I'm a CPA. But since this is probably going out to most CPAs, that's probably not a surprise based on the intro. Most people don't know that both my grandfathers actually worked at NASA, and that's how my parents met, and that my paternal grandfather actually turned down a spot in the NBA to play in the NBA to go to NASA instead of the NBA. Actually, you made more money at NASA at the time, and it was far more prestigious to be at NASA than the NBA. So, kind of all over.
Wow, that could be a podcast unto itself. Then just hearing that history. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Very cool. So I guess numbers kind of run in your family then.
Yeah, there's a lot of engineers and a lot of numbers type people. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, next question. If you could choose only one place to go on vacation for the rest of your life, where would it be and why?
Tough one. So I'm not one of those people that always goes back to the same city over and over again. I kind of go all over the place when I do travel. Normally, let's say pre-COVID, I probably would have said I just want to stay at home for a week or two and just be at home on vacation at home and live there. Right now during COVID, I can say I'm a little tired of being at home. I assume most people are there as well. And so, if there was a place that I was going to be stuck on vacation and always be there, I would have probably already moved there. Why wouldn't I move there if I wanted to be there all the time? So I still really like Houston. I like to visit lots of other places, but I can't think of one place or city or country that I just want to be all the time besides where I already am. I want to visit everywhere, but I kind of like coming back to my roots and coming home and kind of decompressing and having some quiet time. So not a partial answer, but I can't imagine being stuck somewhere else for the rest of my life. That seems harsh, even if it's a paradise.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be going anywhere anytime soon. So
yeah. I just want to go on a bunch of little trips. I really like lots of little trips is what I like.
I'm with you on that one. Excellent. Houston is home then, it sounds like. So who was your favorite teacher when you were young, and why?
Okay, here's going to be the big nerd alert. I would say my high school calculus BC math teacher, my senior year of high school, she was amazing. I remember when we were sitting there trying to figure out volumes of irregular surfaces, and she showed us how you can, in effect, rotate it 360 degrees, take a plane of it, rotate 360 degrees and get the volume. And I was just my mind was blown. I just remember being holy cow, this is just beyond what I could ever comprehend that you could do, and just had so much fun with it. So I really enjoyed that class. I got my 5.5 on my BC test. And yeah, I like numbers. And I will say that is the last math or science class I ever took. So I was able to actually place out of all math and science in college and didn't take any math or science. So, but I have just really fond memories of that class because she just had a way of taking, complex mathematical subjects and just making them applicable to the real world and just useful. So. But huge nerd alert, I get it. But, I'm a numbers person.
That's pretty opposite me. I'm definitely not a numbers person. So kudos to you for being, and I think that's where that NASA DNA must come into play. That's showing right there. Next question. What would the title of your autobiography be?
I would say something about being comfortable when you're not comfortable. Making other people feel comfortable when you're clearly not comfortable with the situation, or being in situations and making yourself comfortable with it, even though it's a clearly uncomfortable situation. I feel like that's just been a lot of my career and adult life has just been, I'm in really tough situations, and the faster I can just deal with it and not necessarily get through it as it's a bad thing, because sometimes change is uncomfortable and exciting things that happen are uncomfortable. And so just getting to being comfortable when you're uncomfortable, I think, is probably the theme.
Yeah, and certainly right now we're dealing with a lot of uncomfortable times. So I think that's a very apropos title, given what we're in right now. So I like that. That's good. So last question, what's something you believed earlier in your career but think differently about now?
I would say early in my career, I was a little naive to think I couldn't take control of my own career. I thought my destiny, if you will, was in other people's hands, and that, not that I was a victim of anything, but, this person could hold me back, or this person could make it so I couldn't get on that project, or I got stuck on this, so that means I can never do something else. And, the more mature I've gotten in my career, the more things I've seen, I've realized, no, that's not the case. Yeah, you can have a bad situation that, takes a project or puts you on a bad path, but you are still in control of your own life, and that you can change what you want to change. You just have to be willing to do it. So I'd say that's the one that I just really struggled with early on, that now I know better. It just takes a certain amount of, practice and reps and getting through those. Well, I go back to uncomfortable situations to get yourself back to being where you want to be. So.
Nice tie into the last question. I like that.
Well, it is a theme. You wanted an autobiography theme. Hopefully it means it's relevant.
Very good. Okay, well, you made it past the icebreaker round, so congratulations.
Phase 2, here we come. What do you got?
All right. So why did you pursue a career in accounting?
It was actually, it's a little weird how I came into accounting. I kind of almost fell into accounting. My mom, actually, when I went off to college, I wanted to be an architect. I didn't get into the architecture school I wanted to go into, but I'd always dreamed of going to Rice. So I decided, well, I'll go to Rice and I'll just do political science, because what else do you do when you don't know what to do? And I ended up doing economics too. And I enjoyed it quite a bit, but it wasn't going to be the career for me. And so when I went off to college, Mom gave me some advice. One of the pieces, there's 3 pieces. One of the ones was, take an accounting class no matter what you do, because you actually have to understand this thing no matter what you do. So just take one accounting class, just suffer through it and get done. And so I took the accounting class. I only did moderately well in it, but it made sense to me. Like the math of it, and kind of just seemed balanced and happy, and it just kind of all worked itself out. So, I needed a job. What do you do with a just generic political science and economics major? And you're just kind of like, well, I've already decided this is not what I want to do. And it's like, well, that accounting class was great, so let's do accounting. And I kind of just did accounting and got a job in it. So EY was actually recruiting at the time from Rice, because Jim Turley had gone there and they were short accountants. So they were hiring accountants with only 1 class of experience. They were so desperate, and they were like, we'll teach you everything else you need to know. So I was like, that class worked out well. This seems like a good company. Let's do it. So, and then I realized I actually loved it, and it should have been the fit the whole time. And, my mom goes back and tells these stories about how I apparently ran around with clipboards as a kid and counting things and organizing things. And, we all probably have a little bit of OCD. And she's like, I don't know why I didn't see it before, but it makes so much sense now. So I kind of fell into it, but I'm glad I fell into it, because I think it was always the right fit.
Accounting was definitely not my class. I was a finance major, it's so interesting that you fell into it and you've got the numbers background. Calculus was one of your favorite subjects, so that's very, very, very interesting. Good on you, as they say in Australia. So next question is, has the CPA license benefited you in your career, and if so, how?
Most definitely. I mean, it's just endless opportunities. It kind of goes back to, you get to control your own career. And even if you find yourself doing CPA work that you don't like, there's another kind of CPA work you can do. And there's kind of endless different, like, little slices and niches and different nuances to being a CPA and different types of CPAs. And you get to work almost any kind of industry or any kind of thing, and you can transition pretty easily. I hear a lot of people complaining that they pigeonholed their life prospects by how they majored on something or how they got too technically focused in a job. And then the skills, there's transferable skills, but they doesn't relate well and they get pigeonholed into an industry. And accounting, you don't have that kind of thing. Yeah, if you want to switch niches, it can be a little bit tough and you have to switch it. But people hear CPA first and then they hear, okay, what do you actually do within the CPA? But because they hear that, okay, CPA first, this stuff. And a lot of times people wrongly assume that you're a tax expert and out in the general public and ask you whatever tax question. And, I remember when the Tax Act was passed, right around the holidays, I went to a holiday party and everyone just wanted to talk to me all day long about what to do in the last 5 days of the year. And I was the most popular person at the party because they wanted tax advice. And I was like, well, I'm not a tax CPA, but sure, I'll do my best to answer some of these questions. But, it's kind of like you go to a party and people start telling you the deep, dark, dirty little secrets of their financial situation and want free advice. And people just open up to you because there's a certain amount of trust and expertise and knowledge that just comes with that CPA title that you can leverage into, anything you want it to be. If you don't like doing, technical, whatever XYZ work, okay, then start leveraging yourself into more strategy and getting into C-suites and stuff like that. You can just go anywhere. If you're, a family member gets transferred and you need to follow that family member, you probably can find a job as a CPA wherever you are. And these days, even with, really now telecommuting, you don't have to physically be there except for, inventories are the only tricky one. And that's, not so bad.
Not only during this pandemic, but also with the way audits are performed. And so inventories can be done remotely. Probably a little more difficult to do right now. But yeah, there's drone technology. So needless to say, the accounting profession is changing. And I think you already kind of answered this in your previous answer, but why should someone consider getting a CPA?
I'd go with same answer, maybe ditto my last response. But, again, even if you don't exactly know what kind of accountant you want to be, there's so many opportunities and it's hard and you have to work hard to get it, but doors open for you once you have it and maintain it once you have it. Even if you decide not to work in the CPA, like a technical profession that you must have your CPA license, which I actually did for about 9 months. I maintained that CPA mainly because I'd worked so hard for it. I wasn't going to let it lapse. And then I realized, I really liked doing what I was doing. And, it's just opportunities upon opportunities.
What qualities do you think make a successful accountant? What do you generally see in your years of experience? What, when you're working with an individual, what really pops out in your mind as, this consistently, I see this across the board when, with these great accountants that I work with?
There's a couple things, and I think it kind of goes back to kind of this critical thinking skills and an inquisitive mind, and not just taking everything at face value. Clearly my background's audit when I say that kind of stuff, but a breadth of knowledge outside of accounting also really helps for issue identification. And so if you're just continuously questioning what's going on around you, I think that just makes for a better accountant, no matter what kind of accountant you are, or if you're not even in industry, but just a professional, because you just don't take anything at face value. And it's not overly question everything. It's just, is this actually making sense? And if your mind's constantly running, it makes it hard to fall asleep at night sometimes. But, if your mind's constantly running when you're listening to people, clearly still do all the active listening things, but you're always kind of spot checking. Does this make sense with what the other comments that were made? Is there a misperception here? Are there disconnects? Oh, wait, that's their issue, but really that's their issue too. And if we fix this one underlying root cause, we fix both issues simultaneously instead of chasing symptoms. And so for me, it's the people that continuously think about what they're doing while they're doing it and don't just shut off their brain and turn into, just rote data entry clerk type level work. And, sometimes you do still have to do that work and it can be tough and it's hard, but, I found a staff that they were still having their brain running when they were doing a really tedious project and they caught on to a second fraud scheme. Because they were just paying attention to the work they were doing, even though it was really tedious work.
Yeah, there's, I would have to agree with you on that one. There's just that critical thinking, that ability to connect the dots. So what do you do at PKF? Can you give me a little more detail? I just said you were a director, but tell me what you do on a day-to-day basis.
So I'm in our advisory group. I kind of run our forensics and data practice. Every day is very, very different. I don't usually see the same problem, day in and day out. You see the same kind of references to a problem, but nothing's ever the same. And I think that's why I enjoy it so much, because I really like that kind of diversity in what you get to do, and things kind of all over the place. And I tend to work on the things that no one else knows what to do with it. Like, it's just weird and no one's ever seen it, or it's just odd for some reason. If it was easy, somebody else on the team would probably handle it at a lower level of seniors or managers. So I tend to deal with just some of the weird stuff that there is no manual on how to do it. There's no rule book. There's it's kind of uncharted territory a little bit. And so that's the work I really like to do. It's just fun for me to kind of figure out that puzzle and be thinking through the problems. And yeah, that's kind of and of course, as my role, there's a lot of meetings. So if you want a day in the life, there's a lot of meetings, and a lot of client stuff as well, and a lot of emails. But when I'm doing the real work and really getting into it, is somewhat trying to peel back of the unknown and figure out, okay, what can we know and how do we get to where we're trying to go? So just a lot of weird stuff, but that's how I like it. So
no 2 days are the same, it sounds like.
No, not really. I mean, I've had a 2 day long meeting of the same, but even the content of the meetings, because we have a long agenda, if it takes 2 days. So, yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit more about how you're actively involved in the profession? I know we mentioned that you're on you lead the technical committee for the TXCPA. What other, I guess you can talk more about that, or what other activities are you involved in?
The Technical Issues Committee is referred to as TIC, like the bug. We tend to bug people. So what we do is, on behalf of pretty much the not major firms group and non-Big Four, we write comment letters and meet with all the major standard setters in the U.S. for accounting and attestation services. So FASB, GASB, ASB, ARSC. We meet with PEAK sometimes, we meet with peer review sometimes. I feel like I'm missing one, and I hopefully haven't insulted a committee that I just have spaced on. I feel like there's one more, and I think I may be short a committee. But we provide feedback for more of the private company focused and the smaller firm focused. So depending on the nature, it may be the firm focused or the clients of the firm. Mainly because most people don't have the resources in-house at those size organizations to provide public comment letters back to exposure drafts. And honestly, a lot of standards are set with the bigger companies or organizations in mind, because they are already the ones providing the feedback. So it's not that the standard setters are trying to ignore, it's just that they don't have the point of reference. And there's just not a group that aggregates the information the same way our group aggregates the information and provides it back. So we usually liaison with them, plus have written responses to exposure drafts. I'm on TXCPA board, Houston Society's board. When the American Women's Society of CPAs was involved, I was involved with them, and they rolled up into the AICPA's Women's Initiative Executive Committee. So I've been on the conference planning committee for that group as well, for the Women in Profession Conference. Probably a couple other things that I'm not thinking of right off the top of my head. I also used to do a lot in financial literacy as well, with some local organizations. The problem is the financial literacy time commitment I had to kind of dip into to take on the technical issues commitment.
There are a lot of things you're involved in there. So I don't know how you have time to do your job and, raise a family. So kudos to you for all of that. That's great.
You don't need sleep. That's what you do.
Yeah, I guess that's how you do it. Yeah, no sleep, right? Okay, well, we're down to the last question. So really, what do you hope to be doing 1 year from today?
The same thing. Pretty much the same thing with a different set of problems. Hopefully it's not the same set of problems, because that would mean I kind of failed right now. But, kind of the same thing with new twists. I'll be wrapping up my TIC chair, my final year right about now next year. So we'll see what I get assigned to next, but hopefully something good. I've loved TIC, so.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Danielle, for your time today. I really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to catching up in person at some point. Don't know when that'll be, but thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.